They mocked human warm-ups until the Deathworlder bent steel by accident. The planet was infamous across the galaxy for its dangers: thick, twisting forests, jagged rock formations, and skies filled with winds sharp enough to cut through metal. Yet for humans, it was just another challenge to face. Jaren was the first to step out. He adjusted the strap of his equipment pack, his boots sinking slightly into the dark red soil. The air smelled metallic with a hint of ozone. He inhaled deeply, letting the unfamiliar, harsh scent fill his lungs. Around him, alien colleagues whispered nervously among themselves, their multi-limbed forms flickering with subtle, nervous motions. "This feels impossible," one of the slender, glass-skinned aliens muttered. They had translucent skin, showing veins filled with glowing liquid. They had relied on technology to survive almost everywhere, not raw physical endurance. Jaren chuckled. "Impossible is just a word," he said. "We'll see." The human team began their routine, simple, disciplined, and deliberate. Stretching their limbs, bending their joints in ways that seemed excessive to the alien observers. The aliens watched, unsure what to make of the warm-ups. Humans moved their bodies like machines, each motion precise and confident. Zivra, the alien expedition leader, raised a bony, multi-jointed hand. "Do you really believe that will help you survive here?" she asked, her tone dripping with skepticism. Jaren smiled. "It helps us survive anything," he said. The other humans nodded, continuing their exercises without any rush. They lunged, twisted, and ran short sprints across the rough ground. Their muscles flexed under the low gravity, yet they moved with surprising power and coordination. The aliens whispered among themselves. None had ever seen a species that relied so much on sheer physical preparation. On their worlds, everyone used energy shields, hover boots, or gravity manipulators. The humans seemed primitive, but somehow there was confidence in every movement. Jaren's gaze swept the area, noting the jagged rocks and twisted trees that would be obstacles later. He imagined the storm that often swept across the northern cliffs and the massive predatory beasts that roamed the shadowed valleys. Humans could face these dangers without fear, because fear did not slow them, it sharpened them. He leaned down to adjust a metal support beam used for the temporary landing pad. His fingers brushed the steel, and when he applied a little pressure to test its stability, it bent slightly. He froze, startled, realizing how much force his body could generate without even thinking. The aliens did not notice yet, but some subtle murmurs began as a few glanced at the beam. "You humans are fragile," Zivra said with a smirk. "The planet will tear you apart." "We'll see about that," Jaren replied casually. He returned to stretching, feeling the stiff muscles loosen under the mild morning sun of Zyphora. After the warm-ups, the humans gathered near the shuttle. Each one was tall, strong, and alert, but there was a lightness to their movements, confidence without arrogance. "First day on Zyphora," Jaren said quietly to his teammate Lyra, a bright-eyed engineer with quick reflexes. "Let's not underestimate the terrain. It's a death world for a reason." Lyra nodded. "But I have a feeling we'll do more than survive. We might even enjoy it." The aliens stared, puzzled. Enjoy the dangers? It was incomprehensible to them. They relied on shields, force fields, and controlled environments, yet the humans seemed to draw strength from the very threats the aliens feared. The team began walking toward the first assigned zone, a rocky valley where alien sensors reported unusual seismic activity. The ground shook slightly under their feet, but the humans were steady. They moved as a unit, careful but confident, using their eyes and senses to gauge the environment. One alien stumbled over a jagged rock, nearly dropping their sensor equipment. Jaren bent down immediately and helped, lifting the alien's device with ease. The aliens murmured in surprise. Humans were not just strong, they were quick and attentive, aware of everything happening around them. The valley was harsh, with red dust swirling in small tornadoes created by the planet's gusty winds. Jaren raised a hand to shield his eyes but kept walking, unbothered. His breathing was steady, his muscles ready for sudden movement if necessary. "Watch out for the crevices," Lyra warned, pointing to a sharp chasm hidden by dust and rocks. Even a step in the wrong place can be dangerous. The humans moved carefully, yet without hesitation. When Jaren's foot brushed against a hidden rock, he barely stumbled, correcting his balance with a fluid motion that made the aliens gasp. A nearby alien whispered, "They are not like us, not at all." Hours passed, and the team reached a plateau overlooking the valley floor. Here, the first test would begin, navigating unstable terrain while carrying supplies meant for the alien research team. The humans set down their packs and ran a quick assessment. "Divide the load evenly," Jaren said. "Stay alert. The planet reacts to weakness." They moved forward, picking their path carefully. Small creatures scuttled among the rocks, harmless yet curious, observing the humans with glowing eyes. The humans ignored them, focused on the task at hand, moving with a strength and endurance that left the aliens struggling to keep up. At one point, a metal support beam left as a marker wobbled dangerously. Jaren's instinct was to steady it. He pressed his palm against the beam, not even thinking, and it bent slightly. A faint, audible groan of metal sounded. Lyra turned, eyes wide. "Did you?" Jaren shrugged. "Accident," he said lightly, but even he was impressed at the force he had applied without trying. The aliens who saw it froze, their disbelief clear. The rest of the day continued with similar challenges. Climbing rocky slopes, balancing on unstable ledges, and moving with precision across jagged terrain. The humans adapted naturally, while the aliens struggled to use their technology effectively against the unpredictable environment. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with streaks of orange and violet, the human team gathered to camp. They set up minimal equipment, relying on their bodies to endure the cold that settled in quickly on this harsh planet. "This place is beautiful," Lyra said softly, looking at the horizon. "In a dangerous sort of way," Jaren nodded. "Beauty often comes with challenge. That's what makes it worth facing." Zivra watched from a distance, a mix of awe and skepticism on her face. The humans had done more than survive. They had adapted, anticipated, and even impressed without knowing it. That night, as the wind howled across the valley, humans slept lightly, muscles still loose from their warm-ups. The aliens slept in tense vigilance, unsure how this species could function in such a hostile environment. In the quiet darkness, Jaren's mind wandered. Tomorrow, the real tests would begin. Alien challenges, survival tasks, and the unknown dangers that Zyphora would throw at them. But for the first day, humans had proven something simple yet profound. Preparation, resilience, and adaptability could turn even the deadliest world into a place to master. And somewhere in the shadows, the bent metal beam stood as an unspoken testament. A small accident, unnoticed by many, had already hinted at the hidden strength of humanity, a strength that the galaxy had not yet fully realized. The first day on Zyphora had ended, but the story of humans on a Deathworld was only beginning. The morning sun barely peeked over the jagged horizon of Zyphora, casting long shadows across the rocky terrain. Jaren stretched, his body still humming with the energy of yesterday's exercises. The air was cold, but unlike the humans, the aliens around them seemed tense, their movements hesitant and careful. "Ready for another day?" Lyra asked, adjusting her gear pack. Her voice held the quiet confidence humans carried naturally, a confidence that often unsettled aliens. Jaren grinned. "Always, let's see what this world has for us today." Zivra, the alien leader, stood at the edge of the plateau, her translucent skin glowing faintly in the early light. "Today's challenges are designed to test your limits," she announced. "Do not think your warm-ups alone will help you. This planet does not forgive mistakes." The humans exchanged glances, not intimidated but alert. They had faced challenges before, but Zyphora demanded more than strength. It demanded adaptability. The first task began almost immediately. The team had to cross a narrow ridge leading to a steep valley, carrying vital supplies for the alien research team. The path was treacherous, littered with loose rocks and sudden dips in the soil. One misstep could mean a fall into jagged rocks far below. Jaren took the lead, scanning the path ahead. "Step lightly but move with purpose," he instructed. His voice was calm, almost reassuring, and the other humans followed seamlessly. Each footfall was deliberate, each handhold secure. They were not reckless, they were precise. The aliens followed behind, using hovering supports and energy grappling devices to maintain balance. Even with advanced technology, they struggled to match the fluid movements of the humans. One alien, a slender species with 4 legs, tripped over a rock, nearly dropping their sensors. Jaren lunged forward instinctively, catching the alien's pack with a single hand and steadying them with ease. "Humans, unbelievable," the alien muttered, astonishment in their voice. The humans simply nodded and continued. Adaptability was second nature to them. After the ridge, the next challenge awaited, a shallow canyon filled with jagged, crystalline formations that reflected the harsh sunlight. The crystals were sharp, capable of cutting metal if struck with force. The aliens hesitated at the edge, debating how best to cross safely using their equipment. Jaren stepped forward without hesitation. "Watch my lead," he said. Using a combination of balance and careful foot placement, he moved through the crystal field effortlessly. Lyra and the others followed, each step measured and safe. When one of the aliens tried to hover across, a sudden gust of wind pushed them off balance. Jaren caught them again, steadying both the alien and their equipment. "This species is insane," Zivra whispered to herself. Humans didn't just survive, they adapted instantly. Midway through the canyon, the humans encountered a fallen steel beam left over from a previous coalition construction attempt. It was massive and twisted, but Jaren's curiosity got the better of him. He pressed his hands against it, testing its stability, and the beam bent slightly under his grip. He straightened immediately, brushing his hands off as if nothing happened. A few aliens noticed. Their faces showed a mixture of fear and awe. "Did he bend steel with his hands?" one whispered. Jaren laughed lightly. "Just helping out," he said, as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. The humans continued, their stamina and coordination impressive even to themselves. They navigated the crystal canyon, reached the far side, and unloaded the supplies with precision. Meanwhile, the aliens struggled with simple adjustments, their reliance on technology slowing them down. The third challenge of the day tested not just strength but endurance. The team was instructed to climb a steep rock face to reach a plateau overlooking the valley. The cliff was jagged, with narrow ledges and loose stones that threatened to fall at any step. Jaren moved steadily upward, muscles tense and eyes scanning each hold. Lyra followed close behind, her hands gripping the rock with practiced skill. Even as the wind howled and dust blew into their faces, the humans adapted, shifting weight, adjusting balance, and conserving energy. Some aliens attempted to ascend using hover devices, but the gusts of wind threw them off course repeatedly. One of them tumbled slightly, caught only because Jaren extended his hand instinctively. "Humans are not just strong," Lyra said, catching her breath at a halfway ledge. "They are smart with their strength." At the top, the humans rested briefly, taking in the view. The valley stretched endlessly, filled with jagged rocks, crystal fields, and winding rivers of red dust. The harsh beauty of Sci-Fi was breathtaking, but it was a reminder that survival here required constant vigilance. Zivra studied the humans carefully. "They are remarkable," she admitted quietly. "But will it last? The true test has yet to come." The fourth challenge arrived unexpectedly. A series of unstable metal platforms had been set up above a deep chasm. The humans were tasked with moving these platforms to create a temporary bridge for the aliens. Each platform weighed hundreds of kilograms, and some were old, corroded, and threatening to collapse. Jaren stepped up first. Using careful balance and raw strength, he lifted one platform with a grunt of effort and placed it exactly where it needed to go. The metal bent slightly under his touch, yet he controlled it perfectly. Lyra and the others followed, coordinating every movement, ensuring safety while moving quickly. The aliens watched in awe. Even their advanced tools could not replace the human combination of strength, focus, and judgment. One of the alien engineers approached Jaren cautiously. "I did not believe the rumors," they said, eyes wide. "You are stronger than the manuals claim." Jaren shrugged. "It's not just strength," he said simply. "It's practice, preparation, and paying attention to the world around you." By the end of the day, the humans had completed every task with minimal difficulty. The aliens, although still competent, lagged behind in speed and efficiency. For the first time, the coalition members witnessed human endurance firsthand, and it left a mark. That evening, the team gathered near a small river flowing through the valley. The water was cold, but humans adapted easily. They filled their canteens, rinsed their equipment, and prepared a simple meal. The aliens hovered nearby, quietly observing, still in disbelief. Lyra sat beside Jaren. "You think they'll finally understand what humans are capable of?" she asked. Jaren smiled faintly. "Some of them might, others will learn soon enough. We don't need their recognition to know what we can do." In the distance, the wind shifted, carrying with it the sound of the planet's wildlife. Large, unseen creatures moved through the forests, and the humans listened quietly, respecting the danger yet unafraid. Adaptability was their greatest tool, and fear had no place where preparation reigned. That night, humans slept lightly, muscles still warm from the day's exertion. The aliens, restless and nervous, wondered how this species could maintain such energy and composure in an environment that challenged even their most advanced technology. Jaren's last thoughts before sleep drifted to tomorrow's unknown trials. If today was difficult, what awaited them next? He didn't worry. Humanity had survived worse, and Zyphora, for all its harshness, was no different from the challenges they had faced and overcome countless times before. Somewhere in the dark valley, the bent steel beam from earlier stood quietly, an unremarkable piece of metal to most, but a symbol of human potential to those paying attention. It was a small accident, yes, but it hinted at something extraordinary. Humans were capable of feats that even the most advanced alien civilizations had not fully imagined. Tomorrow, the challenges would grow harder. Aliens would push boundaries, expecting humans to falter. But humans had an advantage the galaxy could not replicate: resilience, teamwork, and the ability to turn every obstacle into an opportunity. For Jaren and his team, the first true day of tests had ended. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the valley in shadow, but humanity's presence on Zyphora was undeniable. The aliens had begun to see the truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. And somewhere in the night, far above the valley, stars twinkled as if watching, silent witnesses to the beginning of a story that would echo across worlds. A story where humans thrived not because of weapons or shields, but because of endurance, intellect, and spirit. The next morning, a heavy mist hung over Zyphora's jagged valleys. The sun barely penetrated the thick haze, casting everything in muted shades of red and gray. Jaren and his team stepped carefully over slippery stones, the ground damp from overnight condensation. Their senses were alert. Every sound and movement could be important. "Another day, another challenge," Jaren said lightly, scanning the terrain ahead. His voice carried calm confidence, the kind that came naturally to humans. Lyra nodded. "And I think today will be more personal." She pointed to a distant ridge where alien engineers had set up a series of strength tests. "They're curious about what humans can do." The humans exchanged quiet smiles. The aliens' curiosity was harmless, mostly, but it carried the unspoken assumption that humans would fail. Humans had faced doubt before, and they were ready to turn it into opportunity. Zivra's voice echoed from above. "Humans, we will begin with the next stage. You will move a series of steel beams to test your strength and control. Do not disappoint us." The humans approached the beams cautiously. They were enormous, rusted in places, and had obviously been left in the valley by previous construction teams. To the aliens, they were heavy beyond reason, impossible for a human to manipulate. To Jaren, they were simply another task. He crouched, placed his hands on the first beam, and tested its balance. The steel creaked slightly under his grip, but he adjusted his stance and lifted it just enough to roll it into place. Lyra followed, guiding the beam with precision. The other humans worked as a coordinated team, each movement deliberate, each action supporting the others. The aliens stared, their eyes widening in disbelief. One of the younger engineers whispered, "I thought these humans were weak. I see now I was wrong." But not all the aliens were convinced. A rival faction had arrived, skeptical of human claims. They had set a challenge of their own: move the heaviest beam across an uneven cliff without dropping it or letting it bend. The task was meant to be impossible for humans. Jaren's curiosity was piqued. "We're not here to prove them wrong," he said quietly to Lyra. "We're here to do what's necessary. Strength isn't arrogance, it's utility." They approached the challenge carefully. The beam was enormous, wider than any human could wrap their arms around. But the humans had something the aliens didn't anticipate: coordination. They worked together seamlessly, shifting the weight, adjusting their footing, and communicating silently. When the beam wobbled dangerously, Jaren leaned slightly, and the metal bent under his force, but in a controlled way, allowing them to balance it without incident. The aliens gasped. Zivra's eyes narrowed, a mixture of awe and concern. "These humans, they bend steel with their hands," she muttered. One of the skeptical aliens stepped forward. "Demonstrate it again," they demanded. "We need to record proof." Jaren laughed lightly. "I'm just helping, you don't need proof. Actions speak louder than records." But curiosity got the better of him. With a deep breath, he applied steady pressure to the beam. It flexed under his hands, bending slightly without breaking. The aliens froze, jaws dropping in disbelief. They had never seen a living creature manipulate metal so effortlessly. The humans continued their work, moving multiple beams and creating stable structures across the uneven cliff. Their movements were precise, their coordination perfect, and their endurance unmatched. Even when the alien engineers tried to interfere, suggesting more efficient methods, the humans adapted naturally, using judgment and experience over technology. Midway through the task, a sudden gust of wind swept across the cliff. The heaviest beam swayed dangerously. Instinctively, Jaren shifted his weight, holding it steady while the others adjusted. Lyra directed the team, calling out instructions, her voice calm yet firm. The aliens could only watch in awe. "This species, it is not just strong," one alien whispered. "They think while they act, even under pressure they remain calm." The day's tests were far from over. The aliens had planned a series of physical challenges, hoping to uncover human weaknesses. The next task involved navigating a crystal-strewn ravine with jagged formations that could easily puncture armor. The humans moved with careful precision, using agility, balance, and teamwork. They avoided sharp crystals, helped each other across unstable ground, and maintained speed without mistakes. The aliens attempted the same path using shields and hovering devices, but their movements were slower, less coordinated, and easily disrupted by Zyphora's unpredictable environment. Every misstep reinforced what the humans had already proven. Adaptability and resilience often surpassed technological advantage. After the ravine, the humans faced another obstacle, a series of collapsing platforms designed to simulate unstable construction zones. One by one, they navigated the platforms, carrying supplies and supporting each other. When one platform tipped unexpectedly, Jaren shifted his weight naturally, stabilizing it while Lyra extended a hand to another teammate. The aliens recorded everything, their astonishment growing. Many had assumed humans relied on luck or brute strength alone. Today, it became clear that humans combined strength, intelligence, and judgment in a way no alien species had fully anticipated. By late afternoon, the humans had completed all the tests. The alien observers gathered, murmuring among themselves. Some were awed, some skeptical, but all had seen something extraordinary. Humans could survive, adapt, and thrive in ways they had dismissed as impossible. Zivra approached Jaren. "I underestimated you," she admitted quietly, her usual arrogance tempered by respect. "Your species, you are remarkable." Jaren smiled faintly. "We don't need your respect to survive, but we do appreciate understanding. Strength is more than just muscle. It is knowing when and how to use it." The humans returned to their camp as the sun dipped below the horizon, bathing the valley in deep red light. They were tired but invigorated, their muscles sore from exertion yet ready for the next day's challenges. Around the campfire, they shared stories of past missions, keeping their minds sharp even as their bodies recovered. The aliens watched quietly, still processing what they had witnessed. Some were beginning to realize that humanity's reputation for resilience and adaptability was not exaggerated. It was an understatement. Night fell on Zyphora, bringing with it the distant calls of unseen creatures and the whisper of winds through jagged valleys. Humans slept lightly, alert yet unafraid. Their bodies were prepared for the planet's challenges, and their minds were ready to adapt to whatever came next. Jaren's thoughts drifted to tomorrow's unknown trials. He had a feeling they would test more than just strength. They would test ingenuity, endurance, and cooperation. But he was confident. Humanity had faced challenges before, and Zyphora was only another environment to understand and master. Somewhere in the shadows, the bent steel beams from earlier stood as quiet reminders. Small accidents, unremarkable to most, had already hinted at the hidden potential of humans. Their strength was not just physical. It was in coordination, judgment, and the ability to adapt instinctively. The day had ended, but the story of humans on Zyphora was far from over. The aliens had begun to see that their assumptions were flawed. They had underestimated humans, and the consequences of underestimation would continue to unfold in the days ahead. Humanity's place on this harsh planet was not guaranteed, but it was undeniable. The galaxy might have doubted them, mocked them, and assumed they would fail, but humans had a way of proving the impossible possible. And as the night deepened, the stars over Zyphora shone brightly, as if signaling the beginning of something extraordinary, a story of strength, spirit, and the unyielding resilience of humanity. The following morning, Zyphora awoke under an unusual, heavy fog that clung to the valley floors and twisted through the jagged rock formations. Visibility was low, and the planet's unpredictable winds carried the faint, metallic scent of ozone from high-altitude storms. Jaren tightened the straps on his gear, his eyes scanning the shifting mist. "Looks like today's challenge is going to be unpredictable," he said. Lyra adjusted her pack and checked her instruments. "Unpredictable is our specialty," she replied with a smile. The humans had already proven their adaptability and strength, but the team knew this day would test more than raw power. Zivra appeared, her translucent skin reflecting the dim sunlight. "Today," she said, "you will face the real test. The storm approaching the northern cliffs has caused several structural collapses across the outpost. You will assist in rescue and reinforcement operations." Technology alone may not be enough. A murmur ran through the alien observers. The humans, however, nodded calmly, ready to take action. They did not hesitate. Where the aliens saw danger, humans saw opportunity. The first task was at a collapsed platform over a deep ravine. Alien sensors had recorded unstable beams threatening to fall. Humans and aliens alike needed to clear debris, stabilize structures, and rescue trapped personnel. Jaren led the team. "Move carefully but stay quick. Watch each other's backs." The humans worked together instinctively. They lifted fallen beams, reinforced weakened supports, and guided the alien team members to safety. Every movement was precise, every action efficient. Where the aliens struggled to coordinate with their tools, humans relied on judgment, muscle memory, and simple, practical teamwork. At one point, a massive metal girder leaned dangerously toward the ravine. Jaren shifted under it, lifting it just enough to hold it steady. Lyra and another teammate secured the other end. The beam bent slightly under their combined effort but held firmly. The aliens froze. Some whispered, "They bend metal with their hands and hold it for how long?" The humans ignored the astonishment and focused on the task. Another platform needed shoring up. Jaren and Lyra carried two smaller beams across the unstable terrain, coordinating their steps as if moving one body instead of two. The alien engineers tried to replicate the effort with hovering devices, but the gusts of wind and uneven footing made their technology unreliable. One young alien, trembling on a swaying platform, almost dropped a critical sensor. Jaren moved instantly, steadying both the alien and the sensor without hesitation. His calm, precise actions gave the alien confidence. By mid-morning, the humans had cleared multiple collapse points and reinforced structures that the aliens had assumed were irreparable. The alien leaders exchanged uncertain glances, realizing the humans' capability went far beyond what they had documented in reports. Lyra spoke quietly to Jaren. "They're starting to see the truth," Jaren nodded. "Not everyone, some will take longer." The second task arrived unexpectedly. A narrow suspension bridge over a deep canyon had begun to sway dangerously under the storm's wind. The aliens hesitated to cross. Human instinct, however, took over. Jaren stepped first, testing each board. "Steady, slow, but firm," he instructed. The humans followed, supporting each other with hands and shoulders when a board shifted. The aliens tried to use energy fields for balance, but the gusts knocked several off course. Humans, relying on balance, observation, and trust in each other, crossed without a single misstep. Midway across, a rope snapped on the bridge. Humans immediately secured it with nearby support beams and improvised tension lines. What should have been a disaster turned into another demonstration of human ingenuity and coordination. By midday, the storm intensified. Strong winds blew debris across the valley, and heavy rainfall began to pool in unstable areas. The humans continued their work with determination. They moved fallen equipment, carried injured alien personnel, and reinforced buildings on the brink of collapse. One particularly massive collapsed beam blocked access to a trapped alien crew. It was too heavy for one person. Jaren, Lyra, and two teammates coordinated their effort. With synchronized strength and careful leverage, they lifted the beam just enough to create a safe passage. The metal groaned under pressure, bending slightly under human force, but it held. The trapped aliens crawled out, bewildered and grateful. I don't know how you did that, one said. Jaren shrugged lightly. Teamwork, practice, and paying attention to the world around us, he replied. Sometimes simple things are the most effective. Meanwhile, the alien engineers took notes and recalculated their strategies. They had assumed that technology alone could handle Zyphora's dangers. They now understood that humans brought something entirely different to the equation: physical skill combined with intelligence and coordination. As the storm reached its peak, the humans faced their final challenge for the day. A high observation tower, vital for monitoring the planet's seismic activity, had begun to tilt dangerously. Humans were asked to stabilize it while alien sensors assessed structural integrity. Jaren, Lyra, and the team approached carefully. The tower swayed with the wind, and loose panels threatened to fall at any moment. Humans relied on their training, positioning themselves strategically to counterbalance the structure. With careful pressure and coordination, they shifted critical support beams into place, stabilizing the tower. Aliens watched in awe as a human hand pressed against a steel girder, bending it slightly to relieve tension and hold the structure steady. Even Zivra, known for her composure, stepped back and muttered quietly, "Humans extraordinary." By late afternoon, the storm began to subside. The humans had reinforced the outpost, rescued stranded personnel, and stabilized critical structures. They were tired, wet, and cold, yet their spirits remained high. The alien teams gathered around, their expressions a mix of relief, astonishment, and newfound respect. Zivra approached Jaren. "You have done more than survive," she admitted. "You have saved lives and preserved structures we thought would collapse. I see now that your species is capable of feats we could not have anticipated." Jaren looked at her calmly. "We don't need accolades to do what's right. We act because it must be done. That is how we survive, how we thrive." Lyra added, "It's not just strength or endurance. It's awareness, coordination, and determination. That is humanity." The aliens studied the humans quietly, recognizing that the combination of skill, intelligence, and endurance created a force unlike any they had encountered. It was not aggressive, but it was powerful, capable of turning impossible situations into manageable ones. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the humans returned to camp. They set up shelters, dried their gear, and prepared a warm meal. Around the fire, they shared observations, laughed quietly, and planned for tomorrow's tasks. Even in exhaustion, their energy remained remarkable. The aliens lingered nearby, processing the events of the day. Some whispered in astonishment. Others calculated the implications. One thing was clear: humans were no ordinary species. They could adapt, endure, and excel in conditions that had humbled some of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Jaren looked out across the valley as the stars appeared, twinkling above the jagged horizon. "Today was just the beginning," he said softly. "The world will continue to challenge us, but humans have a way of meeting those challenges, together." In the shadows, the bent metal beams from earlier stood quietly as reminders of what humans could accomplish. Small, accidental demonstrations of strength had grown into deliberate acts of ingenuity and survival. The aliens had begun to understand. Underestimating humans was a mistake, one that could cost more than they imagined. That night, Zyphora was calm, but the humans remained alert. Their senses were sharp, their bodies ready for action, and their minds prepared for the challenges ahead. The galaxy may have doubted them, mocked them, or assumed they were weak. But humans had a way of turning every challenge into an opportunity, every obstacle into a demonstration of resilience and skill. And as the stars above shone silently, humans slept lightly, ready for the next day, when the final test of their adaptability, courage, and teamwork would truly begin. The dawn on Zyphora was quiet, almost deceptive. The jagged red cliffs glowed softly under the early sun, and the mist had lifted, leaving the valleys clear and sharp. But humans knew better than to trust appearances. This planet was full of surprises, and today would be no exception. Jaren adjusted his gear, feeling the familiar hum of readiness in his muscles. Lyra checked the maps projected from her handheld device, the lines of terrain marked with hazards and unstable structures. "Today," Jaren said calmly, "we finish what we started. We don't just survive, we show them what humans can do when everything is at stake." The aliens, watching from nearby, murmured among themselves. Many were still processing the previous day's events. Humans had saved lives, stabilized critical structures, and outperformed technology at its own game. Now, the coalition's leaders had arranged the final trial, a combination of physical challenges, problem-solving, and leadership under pressure. The first task involved an unstable ridge overlooking a canyon. The coalition had placed critical communication equipment there, but the strong wind and loose rock made it dangerous. Humans were to secure the equipment while ensuring the ridge remained stable for alien teams to cross safely. Jaren led the team forward, moving like a shadow across the jagged terrain. His hands found natural grips on rock edges, his feet balanced instinctively, and his eyes scanned constantly for weak points. Lyra followed, carrying support tools, while other humans maintained stability and coordination. The aliens hesitated to follow. Their technology could detect dangers, but it could not move with the fluid confidence that humans displayed. One young engineer tried to hover across, only to be thrown off balance by a sudden gust. Jaren reacted immediately, extending his hand and steadying the alien without losing his own balance. "Your species is remarkable," the engineer whispered, awestruck. Jaren smiled lightly. "We adapt, that's what we do." By midday, the humans had secured the equipment and reinforced the ridge with both their strength and simple tools. Their teamwork was seamless. Each member knew the other's movements instinctively. The aliens began to understand that human coordination went far beyond what technology could replicate. The second part of the trial was a simulation of an emergency evacuation. Alien personnel were trapped in unstable areas, and humans were tasked with moving them to safety. The paths were treacherous, littered with loose rocks and narrow ledges. Jaren, Lyra, and their team moved methodically. They supported each other, extended hands to the trapped aliens, and created makeshift pathways using fallen beams and rocks. Every step was precise, every action deliberate. Humans lifted fallen beams, bent metal as needed to create support, and guided aliens safely across. At one point, a particularly large metal girder threatened to topple, blocking the path to safety. Jaren and two teammates pressed against it, bending it just enough to relieve pressure and allow the aliens to pass. The metal groaned, but did not break. The aliens stared, realizing they had underestimated human potential yet again. "This species bends steel and keeps calm while doing it," one alien whispered to another. "We were fools to doubt them." After the evacuation, the humans faced the final challenge, scaling a high cliff to repair damaged communication towers before the storm approaching from the north made it impossible. The cliff was sheer, and the wind was strong enough to knock even advanced aliens off balance. Jaren led the climb, carefully selecting handholds and footholds, balancing strength with caution. Lyra followed, calling out adjustments and spotting potential hazards. The other humans maintained support at the base and halfway up, ensuring each movement was safe. The aliens attempted the climb with grappling devices and hover platforms, but the unpredictable gusts made their technology unreliable. Many slipped or hesitated, unsure of where to place their supports. Humans, however, relied on observation, coordination, and instinct, moving with an efficiency that left the aliens speechless. When they reached the towers, they quickly repaired wiring, reinforced structural supports, and secured communication equipment. Every task was performed with speed and care. The storm in the distance reminded them that mistakes were not an option, yet humans worked calmly, confidently, and effectively. Zivra observed silently from below. For the first time, she felt a deep respect for these humans. They were not just strong, they were intelligent, resilient, and cooperative. Every challenge they faced, they met with judgment as well as strength. By late afternoon, all tasks were completed. The humans had secured the outpost, rescued stranded aliens, reinforced dangerous structures, and repaired critical communications. Their efforts had not just succeeded, they had exceeded every expectation. The alien leaders gathered, speaking quietly among themselves. Some were still skeptical, but many were openly astonished. One of the senior engineers stepped forward. "Humans," she said, voice steady but filled with respect, "you have done what no other species could have achieved here. You have saved lives, repaired critical structures, and maintained calm under conditions that would challenge even the most advanced civilizations. Your strength is remarkable, but your coordination, judgment, and teamwork are what make you extraordinary." Jaren nodded. We don't seek recognition. We do what is necessary to survive and help others. Lyra added, strength alone isn't enough. Awareness, cooperation, and determination make action meaningful. That is how humanity thrives. The aliens, some still hesitant, finally acknowledged the truth. They had mocked humans for their warm-ups, dismissed their endurance, and assumed their physical abilities were limited. They now understood that humans combined adaptability, intelligence, and courage in ways no alien species had fully realized. As the sun dipped below the jagged horizon, the humans gathered around their campfire. They were tired, but the energy and pride in their accomplishments were evident. Lyra smiled at Jaren. Do you think they'll finally respect us? Jaren chuckled softly. Some of them already do. The rest will catch up in time. Around the campfire, the aliens watched quietly. Some whispered to one another. Their tone changed from skepticism to admiration. The bent steel beams from previous days had become symbols of human capability, minor acts that had hinted at something far greater. One young alien approached Jaren hesitantly. I did not believe the reports, they admitted. You are incredible, Jaren smiled warmly. We only do what we must. Strength without purpose is meaningless. Humanity thrives because we combine strength with thought and teamwork. That is our true advantage. That night Sci-Fi was calm. The storm had passed, leaving the valleys clear and the air crisp. Humans slept lightly, alert yet at peace, their bodies ready for whatever the planet would throw at them next. The aliens, for the first time, rested with trust and admiration for these newcomers. The story of humans on Sci-Fi had reached a milestone. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and skepticism, and had emerged not only unscathed but victorious. Their reputation for resilience and ingenuity was now proven. Jaren's thoughts drifted as he watched the stars twinkle above the jagged horizon. Humanity had survived countless challenges across many worlds. Sci-Fi was only the latest in a long series of tests, yet it had revealed the qualities that made humans extraordinary: courage, endurance, intelligence, and unyielding determination. In the silent valley, the bent metal beams stood quietly as symbols of what humans could achieve. Minor accidents, unplanned events, and simple actions had grown into deliberate displays of skill and judgment. The aliens had seen firsthand that underestimating humanity was a mistake, one they would not make again. And as the night deepened, humans slept lightly, their minds ready for tomorrow's possibilities. Their story on Sci-Fi and across the galaxy was only beginning. The Coalition now understood that humans were not just survivors. They were pioneers, problem solvers, and a species capable of extraordinary feats without arrogance, without aggression, but with unwavering determination. The final lesson was clear. Respect was earned not through force alone, but through resilience, intelligence, and the courage to face the impossible. Humans had done all three, and the galaxy would take notice.